He doesn't say that he's for medical cannabis or changing the marijuana laws at all.
Are we talking about Dino Rossi?
Correct.
Can we call him a douchebag up here?
Well, you can call it what you like. All right.
I met with Mr. Rossi for 40 minutes and gave him a medical marijuana briefing, so I don't think you actually know what you're talking about until you talk to Dino Rossi.
Excuse me, let me finish my...
I'm going to wrap up with you and then move on to Alison.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rossi will say that we do have medical cannabis laws in this state. He does not say that he's for them. So pay attention to the specifics of his words.
Okay, thank you. Alison.
One of the other issues that we're very concerned about is the privacy infringements that we're seeing occur with Washington State medical marijuana patients. And this has happened, as Dominic mentioned, 3 times. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Washington subpoenaed the medical records of 17 patients of the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation Clinic. The ACLU stepped in to get that subpoena quashed. We succeeded, but that doesn't mean that the government can't try to go after those records again. We've also heard about patient records being seized from Canacare in January of 2007, and most recently, patient records being seized from Lifevine just last month. Obviously, these are patient records of very sick people with very sensitive conditions that law enforcement doesn't need to see. And we're concerned about protecting those privacy rights now, but we're also concerned as we move forward and need to address the problem with our law, where here in Washington, technically a provider can only provide to 1 patient at a time, which is simply unworkable for most patients. How are we going to move forward to a system where providers can provide medicine to more than 1 patient at a time and the patient's privacy can be protected at the same time? So those are issues that we're thinking about right now, as we fully expect that this law is going to need to be amended further to provide greater protection for our patients in this state.
Well, that's all good. You know, you're talking about private organizations, but let's take a state like Hawaii that has a registry system, and the feds walked in and took those records. The records are not going to be much more protected in the state's hands either, and that's what I'm seeing. And a lot of patients have a fear of having their medical records get out there.
Actually, the only place that patient records have been protected at this point is Oregon, which does have a state registry. That's not to say that we support a state registry.
But Paul Stafford is out of Oregon, and that was a target towards him, was it not?
They were Washington patients.
Okay. But one of the other things too is, you know, they also charge a fee to go and get these cards. And, you know, when you have patients making $630 a month, to add a $200, $300 fee to get a card is just really absurd. There's too many people putting their hands in patients' pockets. And one other thing too is we talk about a 60-day supply. I mean, a lot of us out here knows it takes 90 days to grow the medicine, to get usable medicine. So this is one other area that we need to take a look at. You know, and the thing is, I have invited the Department of Health down several different times on 5 different occasions to come through and do a walk through the clinic so they can see what we actually do down there to get a good sense of what we've done. No response, but that's kind of to be expected. And you know what? I'm really not afraid of Dino Rossi. The one I'm really super afraid of, if we do get Obama elected, I hope so, that what I'm really afraid of is losing Greg Wire as Attorney General, because there's several good things going on her side. She has 4 straight wins with the United States Supreme Court. She is a good Attorney General. She has no skeletons in her closet, and she's on a very short list to become that. What I'm afraid of is we'll be stuck with Brad Owen, and that is scarier.
You don't want Brad Owen.
Democrats even run away from Brad Owen. So anyway, I'll move it along.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hello. One thing that Alison said earlier about the physician rule, doctors can override if the presumptive amount is not to the patient's needs, I believe was already written into the 6032 law bill. That was in there when the Department of Health was tasked with the presumptive amount. It said that this presumptive amount could be overridden by medical authorization.
No, just by evidence. Didn't say what kind of evidence it had to be.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying earlier is that the Department of Health looked at the scientific paper that we had written, and which was peer-reviewed, and they said they were working with us for a while on email, but then all contact stopped from this medical expert stakeholder review that they were supposed to do. They just sort of stopped talking to some of us, which was very bizarre. But now you can kind of see with all this disclosures what was really going on behind the curtain, and that's really sad because we really should have an open government, evidence-based sort of thing going on. But so it is anyway. So what they did tell us is that 71 ounces could promote illegal activity. Amounts this large could promote illegal activity, which would violate state and federal drug laws, because obviously those laws make those activities illegal. Yeah, it's too much cannabis. Maybe it'll be diverted. The other thing that they said is that they said that this could. We heard from a number of concerned and affected individuals during public comment, which all that public comment is online now. That these amounts could put patients and designated providers at risk of being robbed. I actually never heard. I went to all 4 workshops, and I never actually heard that public comment. This might have been something
that never happened.
Yeah, I don't even know where that's coming from. And I wonder what would happen if 4 patients who have 24 ounces lived together in one house. Imagine that. Now you'd be up at 80, 96 ounces of cannabis could be in that house. They could all be just a huge burglary could occur. Yeah, that's right. Joanna McKee's saying they'd have to live in separate houses. I mean, this is the kind of this is their evidence-based scientific commentary on alternative versions of their rule.
We're running out of time.
And the last thing is that they said that our plant, we said, okay, if you have to set a plant limit, which we didn't really believe that, a dried medical cannabis, that's really what the medicine is. Plants, that's horticultural expertise, but if you need to set something, you should set it under 100 plants, because that's
we gotta wrap it up.
Federal minimum, so we got to protect patients all around.
There are a lot of problems, obviously, with what's going on, and there are a lot of issues. Recently, when Lifetime was raided and Martin was raided, I was able to get those medical records back very quickly. It took me about a day and a half, but unfortunately, I'm still unable to get the marijuana back, and the ACLU and I are looking at that right now. The real problem is we can't talk about marijuana sensibly in this country, and we can't talk about medical marijuana because it's a subset of marijuana, and you can't talk about marijuana. And one of the things that's completely absurd, I don't know if any of you have followed this, but the ACLU did a half-an-hour documentary with Rick Steves that is just about as neutral. In fact, it approaches boring in many spots. I'm sorry, Allison, but it's a historical thing. It's very well balanced. It's very well done. And you know what? They can't get the thing on television. They can't get anybody to sell them airtime, because you can't talk about marijuana on TV because, oh my God, something bad might happen. The kids are going to find out about it. Hell, the kids are smoking it. I mean, I don't understand why we can't even have an honest, open discussion about marijuana policy on television. You can't even get it. The ACLU can't even get it. The protectors of free speech can't even get a free speech program on television to talk about marijuana. That's how screwed up things are in this country. That's how screwed up it is. That's why you go into court and the judge looks at you and you go, oh my God, it's marijuana. Yeah, it's marijuana. Here it is. It's green, it's clean, get used to it. We're clean, we're green, get used to it. Help us out. What I can't understand is how we got to this position with sick and dying people. Okay, I mean, I can understand the propaganda. I can understand the drug war propaganda. I know how it works. I think it's all a giant lie. But how did they ever convince people that they should be attacking sick people, that they should be throwing sick people in jail? We spent last week, another lawyer and I, keeping a Crohn's patient out of jail because the judge kept attacking us and tried to cancel our appeal and things like that. That's because of marijuana. Marijuana is the most powerful thing in the world because you bring it up, it silences all conversation, people go to jail. I mean, look at it. It's amazing. It's holding us all hostage, and right now, it's holding a bunch of sick and dying people hostage, and that's what cannot be allowed to continue.
Thank you.
Christine Gregoire was the one responsible for the 6th plant law. The Department of Health studied the issue. They wrote countless pages. They cited the studies. And when she saw it, by the way, she has the support of every law enforcement agency. Every law enforcement agency in the state of Washington is endorsing her for governor. Well, let's move on. Let's come up with a solution. You won't all like the solutions, but we've got to start somewhere. We've got to scrap the current law. It's not working. It can't be fixed. We can't keep trying to put Band-Aids on it. We need to go back to the people with a new initiative, and we're going to do that in